What's up? What's up? What's up? I'm tired. Um, I'm gonna wait a couple seconds. We're here today for the organic. Oh yeah, let me put that in the chat. Organic breakdown. What up, Anna? But me too. I tired. That's what I'm saying. I don't know who else coming, so I'm really about to just jump into it. They can watch later. I think Sydney. Hi, Sydney. Jeremiah said he was gonna get on if he remembered, but he was leaving church, so I honestly don't know if he's out yet. I think this song, Organic, is like. Oh, did I not pin that? Hold on, I'm gonna come back. My phone finna die. Alright, I'm gonna wait for Savannah. Sid, what's up, dog? I mean, I was just literally talking to you for like Matthew Scott Pumpkin Pie. Why my last name Pumpkin Pie now? Alright, I'm gonna wait for Savannah to come back. Once I see two people in the John, that's when we gonna get it started. Y'all hear lightning snoring in the background? Yeah, I hear you, dog. This man snores like a grown man. Alright. Jeremiah's here. Alright, Vanna, you gonna catch up when you get on. What up, Jerry? Because I'm gonna get it started because my mom still wants to watch a movie with us. So, alright. I think this is. Oh, Savannah's probably back because it's 8:03 in the thing now. Anyway, there we go. So this is the organic breakdown. I think that Organic is probably the only song on the project that didn't have like a backstory, like there was no event for it. This was kind of really just me sitting down and like laying out my thoughts, like, hey, what's up? Just got out of church. That's what I figured. You were just leaving, probably. So there's no like backstory, but this was me really like laying out my thoughts, which I feel like this song, type of song on my projects is usually, and no, I'm not gonna say usually like the last song, but it can be the last song. But I guess it often falls like before the last, if not the last song, like the second or third to last. Like, it's usually like the title track, the track that's named after the album's usually that song. No, that's not even true. I don't know. It's just, as you say, like then organically. I can't read this. I need to pull this up on my thing. It's just okay. Now I'm gonna hear myself twice, which I definitely don't want. Ew. All right. So, what was I about to say? All right. So yeah, there's like no backstory to this song really. It's just when I really sat down and processed my thoughts about everything else on the album, like yeah, Jeremiah, stop, bro. Just drive and listen. What was I saying? It's just me processing my thoughts. Kind of like, if there's a song that is, I don't want to say that is the album, because I feel like in this one, like the heart of the album is Case, Organic, and Rebirth, all three. And this is sonically the song that I didn't think I was gonna like. I feel like most of the times on my projects, like there's a song that I have that I'm just like, this is my least favorite song, and for whatever reason, people are like, I love that song. I didn't have a least favorite on this project. Organic is definitely the one that I thought that I was not gonna like, but then I recorded and I was like, yo, this goes so much harder than I thought it was gonna be. Like, I love it. So those are definitely my 3 favorite songs. So I'm gonna dive in. This one of the few that starts with the hook, and so it starts. I am not the standard. I fell out of scam. Had to uproot from where I planted. First the audio clip at the beginning has a conversation, the one with me and Josh in the dough room that I talked about a couple times before. And he says, well, now you like changed it, you messed it up or something because you tried to changing it to fit what you want it to mean. And we were talking about just people in general, like I talk about a lot in my American history studies, where they would try to make this narrative fit to make them look good. And we were just talking about how in general a lot of people will change stories to make it seem how they tried to make themselves look good or whatever. Just make it mean what you want it to mean. And so it starts, I am not the standard. I fell out of scam. How to uproot from where I planted. This is, again, I don't want to say like a shot, but like directly addressing like church, where I was brought up in church. I feel like there are a lot of standards, a lot of rules, a lot of procedures. Kirsten, what's up, dog? In the bureaucratic hierarchy of what is church. And standard is a word that like they'll use a lot, like holiness has a standard, this has a standard, God has standards. And like, look, by y'all's standard, by y'all's measured, I am not the standard. I'm not gonna get that the bald fade. Like, my hair looks like a mop and it's only gonna get longer. I'm gonna like, all my friends aren't gonna go to all the revivals and be at church every time the doors open. Like, I'm not that that's not who I am. So I fell out of scam. Not that church is a scam by any means, but I feel like the mindset that is perpetuated, I guess, in the church can come off as a scam in a lot of senses. Like, something my grandma would always say is like, you're living beneath your privilege if you're not saved. And I feel like a lot of, in the church sense, you can be saved and still be living beneath your privilege, because there are aspects of things that, because of certain rules that aren't exactly God's standard, but a certain group of people's standards, you're adhering to those and not being able to do all that you can do. So I fell out of a scam in that way when I realized like this mindset is a scam. It's not healthy. Exactly, Jeremiah. I don't want to say set your own standard, like set your own standard in God, I guess is the way to say it, because if people set their own standards, people are just gonna do whatever. I'm not the standard. I fell out of scam, had to uproot from where I planted. Literally, like my roots, I had to pick myself up, and all this foundations that I was built on, like I had to realize that like all of that is not what God has for me. That's just not gonna work for me. And then the next line, I became organic. That's like the heart of the sign. Let's learn today. Literally, let's learn, Kirsten, because we're about to break some stuff down. So I became organic. That's like what the song's named after. So when something's organic, it's like connected to something living. So in the sense of this song, I disconnected from what was a dead religion and connected to a living God. So I became organic. This ain't how I planned it. Like from when I was little, I used to always say, you know what, when I get older, I'm gonna get saved, blah, 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 whatever that means, right? And then do this, follow all the rules, I'll be perfect, perfect Christian by the church's standards or whatever. And where I'm at now, and the closest I've ever been to God, is not nearly like childhood me at that age would have looked at me now and be like, yo dog, like you're not doing it right, like. And so this is how I planned it. Rose up from the granite, a reference to the euphemism, like a rose growing out of concrete, which I didn't know came from Tupac. I found that out like 20 minutes ago. I was doing research so I could explain this stuff. I just knew it was popular, like euphemism, wanted to make that connection. Rose up from the granite, like I put rose, like the flower, up from the granite. And again, like I came up from the granite because also planted in the rock, Yeshua the rock. Rose up from the granite, beat the disadvantage. Like, again, like the rose coming up from the granite is a metaphor saying just doing the impossible, being something beautiful despite all the odds and pressure against you. So that's how, like, I'm viewing myself, like, Tupac is alive. I don't know. I'm not going to discuss that. I don't want the controversy. Simple Talk Podcast join. What's up, y'all? So, I beat the disadvantage. I just learned to manage. Like, I learned to get by, do the best with whatever I have, because that's all I'm gonna get. Like, I can't. Jonathan dipped out. He was here for a second and dipped. I just learned to manage, get by with what I have, with what's God given me, because if I'm waiting around for a handout, I'm never going to become anything greater if the handout doesn't come. Some people get their little handout, and that's fine. They go up with it, but that's not promised. So I'm not waiting around for it. Next line. Cindy said something I said. Think I'm a little arrogant. I think I really came to terms with that, because when I was writing this, like, it just really fit. Like, I wasn't like looking up rhymes at this point or something. I was like, that just hit, like, that just came naturally to me. Like, dang, am I arrogant? Like, I think in some cases, I think the first time I really thought of myself was arrogant was I had an issue with a teacher in 11th grade, and I wrote him this email, and I showed my mom it after the fact, after I sent it, and she told me, she was like, that's arrogant. I was like, really? Like, I didn't think of it as arrogant at all, but in the sense that, like, when I read it back, I was like, okay, yeah, this does come off as arrogant. And I don't think that's a bad thing if you use your arrogance wisely. Like, I know you got to turn it into confidence. Know when to, like, arrogance, I guess, not to impose that you're right over other people, but know that to not let other people do that to you. Like, when you know something for when you know something for a fact, or like have experience in something, or know you're good at something, to go at it wholeheartedly and not let other people tear you down from that. And so I think I'm a little arrogant. Think people might just perish if my knowledge ain't expanded. Woke up, early bird gets the worm. If my knowledge ain't expanded, I feel like there's a lot of things that I know. And here's again my arrogance coming into play. I think I've come to realize that, like, I'm really smart. Like, people would always tell me, like, in my family, especially when I was like, oh, you're real smart. Like, no, like, yeah, I'm like really smart. And I know that now. And so that gives me, like, I guess a little bit of leverage in a lot of situations where I'm like, I'll let people think I'm stupid all day. That's fine. I don't care. I'll let people think I'm stupid all day. But, like, I know, like, nah, like, I'm really smart. And that doesn't mean I'm right all the time. Like, I know that I'm not afraid to be wrong either. Like, I can be wrong, and okay, well, let's learn from that. But things that, like, I do know things where I am sure, where I've rebuilt myself. I feel like if other people don't see that, like, the Bible says people perish for the lack of knowledge. So I feel like if this vision isn't expanded for people, for humanity, just for us to like support one another, that's literally going to be our own demise. I guess let me talk about that. Yeah, an Attack on Titan. There was this anime that I started watching recently. There is something about humans being like their own fall. Like, so there are these giant titans like attacking humanity, but at the same time they're like, if we don't work together, humanity is going to be our own fall. Not the Titans. Death Note, we're not far enough into Death Note for me to pull anything from there yet, I don't think. I might surprise myself, but we'll see. Side note, we're definitely going to have to start watching Death Note outside of work, because we're just not getting those shifts anymore, just period. Me and Josh were talking about that tonight. So people might just perish if my knowledge ain't expanded. I spend time writing verses just to help them understand it. Like, this is like, I'll say this over and over. Me making music, me being a teacher, that is like my life's like dream, like everything that I want to do. Excuse me, like the change that I want to be in the world, like that is me putting my heart and my soul into these things. And so when I do these things, like, it's important to me, first of all, but like it's important to me not just because it's like a hobby or fun or anything, but because I want to make that difference. Like I said in CTW, like, change the world. I want to change the world. It's just as simple as that. Kirsten, dog, you're just saying stuff at this point, and like nobody knows at all what you're talking about except for me, and that's really funny to me right now. But like, that's the change I want to create and inspire in the world. So I spent time writing verses just to help them understand it, like them, the general mass of people, the world, everybody, whoever I'm able to impact. And then the last line of that, the hook is, but still I'm down enough to try and level with the planet. I understand the panic. So coming from I use the word Christian loosely, but like a believer in God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit, and that Trinity can come off because, like, as Christians or religious people can be very judgmental and come at you one way or another. But like, I was at a point where I was almost not considered a believer, and so like I get it when someone's like, I don't believe in God, or like someone said, I like to say I believe in God because it's convenient. Like, I understand that, but like I don't think I understand. I don't maybe understand the specificities of their specific circumstance, but the general concept, I can empathize with that, and like we can work from there to working towards a relationship with God. Savannah, I have not stopped saying that. Me, Zach, and Steven been saying that literally the past like 3 weeks. So then the first verse starts, summertime, I'm Candace. I spend time telling people what it's like behind the canvas. What's a tier 3 word? Specificity. My professor said that, used to say that word all the time, and like I picked it up from him. It just means specificness. Summertime, I'm Candace. I spend time telling people what it's like behind the canvas. So y'all watched Phineas and Ferb. Y'all know Candace, all she ever did was try to tell on Phineas and Ferb, like, Mom, Phineas and Ferb are doing this, Mom, Phineas and Ferb are doing that. I feel like that's me right now. Like, I'm the snitch. But like from the church, like, yo, it's not all peaches and cream. Like, everybody sees the roller coaster, the fun parts or whatever, but behind the scenes it's ugly sometimes. And I'm like, I know, I've seen both sides. Yeah, I'm the snitch, I'm the narc, call me whatever, that's me. I spend time telling people what it's like behind the canvas, not the imposter. That's me, I'll be the imposter. Go ahead, vote me out. What it's like behind the canvas. These people think I'm manic. Like, these people think I'm crazy. Like, y'all will know Candace's mom. Every time you're like, Candace, like, stop it. Like, that's crazy. Like, they didn't believe. Yeah, exactly. Love to sugarcoat. y'all just see the roller coaster, the water slides, the giant robots, but nobody hears the dude that's asking, "Aren't you boys a little young?" Like, y'all know every episode of Phineas and Ferb, someone says that. Y'all don't see the behind the scenes, and I'm like, I see that. Like, I get what all the construction of it is, and not that it's not pretty in a way. One, it's not pretty in a way that's like, it's a lot of work, and like, props to us, I guess, for doing the work. But on the other hand, there's a lot of things, hypocrisy that goes on that like we'll cover up and then go preach against those kinds of things. Exactly, don't believe you because they know it's true. And so these people think I'm manic, they think I'm crazy, and then the next line, people think I'm manic, tell me that I'm bananas. It's crazy how I look from their perspective and it vanish. So I love these lines because they think like, let me go back to Phineas and Ferb. Every time Candace goes and tells her mom, she doesn't believe them. But then when she's with her mom and is ready to show them, when they both look together, it vanishes. Whatever Phineas and Ferb had done, it gets zapped away, blown away, whatever. It's gone. And so in the same sense, when you look from somebody else's perspective and somebody else's experiences, like getting rid of your own preconceived notions, whatever you know, like not unknowing what you know, unlearning whatever, everything that they think, everything that they see is going to make sense to you when you only understand what they understand. It's like if you take my brain out and give me somebody else's brain, I'm only going to know what they know. So it's only going to make sense from their perspective, certain things, you know what I mean? And so I look from their perspectives and it vanished. Jeremiah, bro, just get home. We can talk about this later. I promise. We'll have a good conversation. Stop. Because if you crash into something and be like, oh, well, I was watching Matt's live. I told you, this is your warning now. I told you to drive and stop watching. Not stop typing. Stop typing. You can listen. Just listen. So I look from their perspectives and it vanished. And like, I try to do my best to empathize with other people, to get rid of my preconceived notions, because I was not always good at that. I was like, one of the old church mothers would be like, I don't see why everyone don't serve God. I do. I see why. And so it makes sense to me when I look from other people's perspective. And vanish. I don't know what to do, like we was no longer in Kansas. Like I've gotten to points where like, all right, I see that, but now like, how do I move? Where do I go? And then also like the name of the dog in The Wizard of Oz was Toto, and they said we're no longer in Kansas, so Todo, Todo. Yeah, little Wizard of Oz bar for you guys there. Next line, love this line too. I started reading stories that was banished from the canon. So censorship is I'm so against censorship. I hate censorship because in like 9 times out of 10, it's just used as a form to control people or to make people only think what you want them to think. And I feel like especially in a church setting, like they'll say, oh, kids, y'all don't need to be learning about evolution, or y'all don't need to be like, they need to take LGBTQ out of school, whatever, because as if us not knowing that these things exist is gonna make them any less true, for one, or make us like not believe in them because we don't know about them. If we're gonna not agree with something, we should know about it. I think people, that's literally my whole thing, like in everything I do is like, that's why like the slogan is let's learn, because I want everybody to know as much as they possibly can about everything, because I don't want people making stupid decisions or uninformed decisions just because they don't know. People perish for the lack of knowledge. And so literally said brainwashing people, that's all it is. Censorship is brainwashing. Like in all these dystopian novels like Fahrenheit 451, what's that one, Brave New World, like they're only giving people a snippet of what's real. Again, Attack on Titan, another show I'll reference, people are getting snippets of information. Spoiler if anybody like plans on watching that, but yeah, they're only giving people snippets, and there's so much more, or lies. Sometimes it's not even just real information, it's just a lie, and the whole truth is just so much bigger than you see. And when you only have a piece of the truth, they said that in Black Widow, the truth rarely makes sense when you omit key details. When you only have a portion of the truth, reality is not going to make sense. A lot of things are not going to make sense. And so in the literary canon, which is referred to like as a English major, I'll talk about a lot. Like a literary canon is like what's the classics, like The Great Gatsby, why is that the only Of Mice and Men, whatever, all those classics in American literature. There are some books that have been banned. I can't think of any banned book examples right now. Like young adult literature books. Like what's that real popular one? I have it sitting over there and I can't think of what it is. But yeah, there's a lot of like books that'll be banned because they don't want kids to think these things. Or why not? Don't you want them to have the experience, or do you want them to be controlled and only think this way? Yeah, they do. So those are like banished from the literary canon. Some books, not like a lot of books, and they're not like official, mostly banishments or whatever. But like I started reading books that were banished from the canon, literally meaning that I started looking at the truths that are being hidden. Then the next line, everything's enlightened when you look from your own vantage. When you look from your own perspective, again, everything makes sense. The next line, some people never had that sun like Marty and Janet. So with going along with enlightened, like that brightens up, makes the information more accessible, more understandable. Some people never had that sun, but then also that's a SpongeBob reference because Marty and Janet were the people that came and were like visiting Patrick the one day, and they were like, oh, wait a minute, we don't have a sun. So they didn't have the sun. Then it says, I was watching when they wasn't looking. Did it pause for y'all? What's the last thing I said, Savannah? Uh-oh. What's the last thing I said, y'all? Before... Oh, it didn't pause for Kirsten? Alright, if it didn't pause, then I'm gonna keep going because it'll be in there for people to replay. But basically, I was just saying, I was looking at the hidden truths. Things are making sense when you look from your own perspective. And then Marty and Janet thing. So last line right there of that stanza is, I was watching when they wasn't looking like a candid. You know when someone takes like a candid, like, or my cousins would call them the off guards, just like the pictures when you're literally not looking. I was paying attention to things when people, like, I guess on the church side of things, don't think they're being watched. Like, no, I'm peeping that shady stuff you're doing. I'm peeping that. And so it says, they told me cut the cameras, because again, going on with the candid metaphor, they told me cut the cameras. I turned to paparazzi. So like, they were like, well, stop. Like, this is grown folks business is what they'll say when you're like in those type of things. And so I start peeping it more, start paying attention more to those types of things. They got cold feet, so I put them in the hot seat. When you're in those positions, like when you get called out, you're going to be a little hesitant to talk. They got cold feet, so I put them in the hot seat. So I'm like, all right, well, let's warm up. Or the hot seat, which means to... Exactly. That only me and Savannah. That's why we had to go to lunch. I said, well, let's warm up, put them in the hot seat, or which is another expression to say, like, you're on blast, I guess. We're going to have these conversations. I'm going to ask these questions because these things that are doing, it's shady, not adding up. So let's talk about it. So I put them in the hot seat, and then it says, exactly, that sheltering is literally a synonymous with control, because they try to shelter you and protect you. I don't think either that it's necessarily a bad intention, but in the long run it ends up hurting you because you're just being controlled and not having the opportunity to grow to your fullest potential. But where was I at? Put them in a hot seat. like, y'all remember when I had to speak that one time, well, Jeremiah, you probably remember it, and I said all this stuff, and, on the online service, and, people got, like, kind of defensive after it, and so I put them in the hot seat. Then the next line, how you demonize these people, tell them to be godly, when your view of God solely based on being glossy. Now, this goes back to, specifically what was in my mind here was the early American literature when I was like reading stuff from like Thomas Jefferson, and then I got so much beef with Thomas Jefferson. I mean, like, because this man was really like just the stuff this man was saying. Okay. Y'all could, hey Alexa, turn my lights on.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anytime.
So the stuff that he was saying was just like disrespectfully racist and just bad, like not even just about black people, but like the natives when they came to America. It was just so much out of pocket, and yet they would always say everything, well, this is for God, or because we won, God wanted us to win. Like, they never consulted God before they went over or did anything. They said, but because it worked out, that's what God wanted. And so, that to me is using God's name in vain. Again, I think I said something like that on one of the earlier lives. Exactly. Stop. Give me the tools. Like Savannah, like Rhonda's vision that she had that one time. I can't use the tools if you don't put me in a situation where I can use the tools. Make it make sense, because let me not go there. But when your view of God solely based on being glossy, what is that art or poet's name? Phyllis Wheatley. I do not like Phyllis Wheatley either. I had to read some of her stuff for my American literature class, and she was brought over as a slave, but then she fell in love with like basically like with white Jesus, and like and like reference in her poems America and salvation and stuff like as being white and pure, but like she made like a very direct connection between like her own skin color and blackness and sin, like all together. And I said, so long in this like white hegemonic perspective, what is right has been considered like y'all know the Monique video where she was like saying people shouldn't be wearing their bonnets or durags, XYZ, like that, like the idea of what is professional or what is good is so not even just anti-black. I mean, I'll say anti-black because I'm black, but it's just so pro-white and not. I guess it's very elitist. That's the best way to say it. Very elitist, and make it look like you're nothing or you can't be godly if you're not like flashy and looking like to these standards of what is good that were created, very Eurocentric standards. So yeah, next line, I came through the facts, I know the difference from the copy. From a copy, I mean a fax machine and copy machine are not the same thing, but also like I went through a process where I was understanding factual information, like the facts, and so I know the difference between someone who's real and it's just a copy, like the standard, but just copying off of somebody else who was the standard. I know to God that helping is essential, not a hobby. Literally love your neighbor, like probably the most important of what God has given us in the Bible. Like, love your neighbor. Like, it's not just like, all right, well, Saturday we're gonna go deliver food to people in the community, as like that'll give us something to do as a church, as a team bonding activity or whatever, that'll be good for this department. And I don't believe that's why we do it or whatever in a lot of situations, but like it comes off that way when that's all you do in terms of loving your neighbor. And instead of like, you can have good conversations, yes, but like truly like being there when someone comes and like confides in you can't sit there and tell them, well, that's too bad, you're still going to hell because XYZ. That's not what loving your neighbor is. That's not what it's about. So I lost my place. Essential is not a hobby. I don't need incentive to go show my neighbor love. I don't like have to be part of a project or like need something in return or whatever. Just like, I don't need gratification to be nice to people and like love everybody. Like, God commanded me to do that. I'm gonna do that regardless. That's just who I am. Exactly, Jerry. Where's the real love? Like, I'm gonna show the real authentic love regardless of it's reciprocated or not, regardless of how people, I don't want people's impression of me to negatively influence their impression of God. And so I'm going to show them love always, regardless of what, like, if I disagree with something that they're doing or whatever, I don't care. And like, by love, I don't just mean like being cordial, like in the same way that I'm going to treat like my closest friends, I'm going to show you that same kind of respect, same kind of kindness, because that's what it is. That's what it's about. I don't care if I met you 20 minutes ago, 20 seconds ago, whatever. I'm not going to be a jerk to you because of these rules. I'm not going to do it. So I don't need incentive to go show my neighbor love. Then the Christians want to fuss. Look, and then it goes back to the hook. So people will get mad because they'll be like, well, God has these rules. The Pharisees were doing the same thing, and God's own son, like himself, Yeshua, was like, guess what? Screw that. I'm still finna heal people on Sunday. I'm still finna do XYZ. They spent his whole life tearing him down because of the rules. And we're gonna sit here now and say, well, Jesus was perfect, did XYZ, but anytime we try to step out of the line of the rules to show love, it's a problem. Y'all figure that one out on your own time. So then it goes to the hook again, which is, I love how it starts, like goes from that verse, because it's like a response to the, like, then the Christians want to fuss, and then I'm like, look, I'm not the standard. So there's that. Then it goes to the second verse, which says, I was idle. Like I said last week in the case live, like, I didn't know where to go. Like, I was like, where do I go? Like, I was idle, didn't know how to move. Next line, they put Jesus in my heart, but as an idol. I love, like, God really, like, was writing these lines, because I don't know how this came. How do you put what is supposed to be the real version of God in somebody, but as a false God? How do you make real God fake? They did it. I remember having a conversation with my friend Abby maybe a year more than a year ago, and she was like, why do churches have like pictures and stuff of Jesus? Like, that's making God in your own image right there. And I was like, girl, I ain't never thought about it like that, but you're right. And in the same sense, every time as a Christian or as a church person try to pass judgment on somebody in the name of Jesus, that's like creating an image in your mind of who that is, what that is, and using that to judge. Like, I'm trying to think of the best way to say it. Creating an image and using that to govern people by, that's still idyllic. Like, that's still idolatry. It's not, because you're not letting God do the judging. You're acting as the judge, jury, and executioner based on preconceived understanding, whether it's from your own thoughts, whether it's from what people have told you, whether it's from the Bible, that's still very idolatrous. I don't even know if that's a word, but y'all know what I mean, like in a sense of glorifying an idol. They're glorifying the rules and the standards more than glorifying God, who God actually is. Literally, God is love. If love isn't the staple in everything, you're doing something wrong. So they put Jesus in my heart, but as an idol. So like, yeah, I would call on the name, and that's another thing. I'll talk about this. Why I like to say Yeshua or Yahweh rather than I like to say Jesus. Especially reading in all that American literature, Jesus was just, they would always just say Jesus, 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 back to back to back after the fact. They never called on God or anything like before they went to war, before they took over the lands, before they were mass genocide, killing people, raping people, burning down villages, whatever, like all that stuff. And then it was just like, but all this is for the glory of Jesus. And so, excuse me, technically, Jesus is a translation of the name, like of Yeshua, into English, I guess. And it fits, but when I hear Jesus, I don't hear Savior. I hear person who endorsed the killing, enslavement, and whatever of all these people 400 years ago. And so I was mad when I first started like changing, like probably 9-10 months ago, like easing off of saying Jesus and switching to Yeshua and Yahweh. I would get mad when people would say Jesus, and I was like, that's not even real name, like y'all need to stop. But I was reading this thing on Twitter, and someone asked that literally same question. They were like, why do people still say Jesus when they know his real name is like Yeshua? And someone explained to me, this rapper I follow, Street Hymns, who studies the Bible like nobody's business, bro. I was like, think about it this way: if a baby, like, say you have a baby, you're the dad, and the baby doesn't call you dad, it calls you Baba or something, you still gonna know that it's talking to you. And it was like, the same thing is, God's gonna know you're talking to them when you say Jesus, or if you say Yeshua or whatever. I was like, you got a point. I'll give you that. So like, I don't get mad. I don't beat people up and be like, stop saying Jesus, say y'all. No, I don't care. That's just a personal preference of mine. That I guess I've developed within the last year. So lost my place. Use idols out of idol. Okay. Treated God like they were trapped inside the Bible. I think I talked about this last week. From a church perspective, we'll talk about God like, they'll always say like, you need scripture to back this up, Yes, I believe that is true. There's a lot of what God has done in that sense, but like, God is still living like in the present. I don't think that somebody from today's testimony is any less powerful or important or true just because it's not written in the Bible. Like, that seems really naive and kind of discrediting God to me, to say that like anything that's not happened since 33 AD, or like however many years Paul and Peter and then was writing after that, to say any of that stuff is like all that God is, like all that is verified about God. Like, I've seen God do things in my own life. Let me talk about that without referencing a scripture, because it's real. I'll tell you that. Like, I know it's real. I'm sure people in the church will take stuff that has happened to them and they'll say it's real. But then why can't we act like it's real then? So, and then it says, plus I learned that God is just a title. Another thing that I hadn't thought about before, I was looking on Twitter, paying attention to a conversation, and someone was like, make sure when people say God, they're referencing your God. And I think that's an important thing to look out for, because God literally is like, it's not God's name. Like, you ever see that thing was like, how I asked my baby what God's name was, and he said Howard, just because Howard be thy name. But like, God's name's not Howard either, guys. God is literally just like the title of the entity. Like, other people in different religions, different beliefs, different faiths have different gods. Like, there's a billion Greek gods, a billion Roman gods. They're still called God, the same as I am is called God. So when I reference God, y'all know I'm talking about the God of the Bible, I am. That's why I started calling, I'll use the name, I say I am, try to more now than God. When I know I'm in company and people understand what I mean when I say I am. If I know they're not going to understand what I mean, I'll just say God. But, yeah. So plus I learned that God is just a title. Next line. I know what it's like to lose your faith and doubt your heart. I was there. Like, everything that you know, feel like you know your whole life, what you built yourself on, seems like it's a lie. I get that. So, and I see someone else in that situation, my heart goes out like, what can I do? How can we work through this together? Because I feel like I was largely alone. It was literally like just me and God in that point. And I don't want other people to not have that support in those situations. So I know what it's like to lose your faith and doubt your heart. When you sorting out the puzzle, you trade peace for the art. Love this bar. I forgot about it. So, like, think about it. You're doing a puzzle. Sydney's here. She loves puzzles, but she didn't do the puzzle I got her for Christmas. When you're sorting out, before you can actually start putting the things together, you sort the pieces. And you want certain pieces together, and especially in the early stages, so you can figure out what goes where. But, like, also, when you're trying to figure things out, you trade your, like, inner peace for the bigger picture. Just to understand, like, I don't care, like, how I feel. That's how I was, like, I was talking about last week with Case. I don't care how I feel. I just need to know what's up, because I'm going to believe in something, but I need to know what I'm about to believe in. What's real. Maya, what's up, Maya? Love you too, said. Even though you ain't did the puzzle yet. I'm playing. You trade peace for the art. I couldn't let my optimism limit what I saw. So, like I said with Smile, like, optimism became my superpower, like seeing the good in everything, just knowing that everything was going to be alright regardless. Excuse me. I couldn't let, just because I understand that everything will be alright, doesn't allow me, some of y'all in the chat need to hear this, because I'm going to say this again. Just because I can tell that everything will be alright, doesn't mean I know how it's going to work itself out. So I can't say, I don't think I talked about this last week, the faith metaphor that I came up for. Some people will view, like, faith as a thing that's like, you can't, okay. Say, like, people will say, okay, the doctor told me, this is like a classic church testimony. The doctor told me I was going to die, but I'm not going to live because you were washing your phone. I said, just because you know everything's going to be all right doesn't mean you can discredit everything, that the bad signs of things that can go wrong. Like, you still have to pay attention to those things. You don't know how it's going to go right. And so, back to what I was saying, the metaphor, the classic, like, church testimony is, oh, the doctor said I was going to die, but I'm going to live because King Jesus is my doctor, or whatever. They'll say something like that. Yes, but if you're going to live, that doesn't mean that the doctor says, or it'll be like, the doctor said I have cancer, but I, like, rebuke it in Jesus' name. I don't have cancer, like, as if the diagnosis is false. In some cases, that turns out they got something wrong, they missed it, looked at it the wrong way. You didn't actually have cancer in the first place. In some cases, people have to go through cancer the treatments, whatever, and come out fine. Some cases people get the cancer and unfortunately they die. Like, that happens. And in one sense, you can't always say that God told you like you were going to live if God did not tell you that, because then that's going to mess up somebody's faith. First of all, if you told them that God told you this and God didn't tell you that, then they're going to be sitting there blaming God because you lied. Make it make sense. So the metaphor I came up was like a coin, all right? Faith is like a coin. If you flip it, faith is not saying this coin is guaranteed to land on heads, because it's not. It could land, and like, exactly, quit putting words in God's mouth. Faith is not saying if you want it to land on heads, so something good will happen. Faith is not saying this coin is not gonna, or it's not saying that this coin. No, stop. All right, the metaphor, you don't want it to land on tails. That's what I'll say. Faith is not saying that this coin is gonna land on heads, because that's discrediting so many different possible ways. Like, you can't limit God's room to work. One example, the coin might not land on. You don't want it to land on tails. Okay. So, what are the possibilities? One, it could land on heads, but also you could flip it. A bird swoops by, grabs it, it never lands. A vacuum opens up, a black hole opens up in the middle, swallows up the coin, and doesn't land. It's just stuck in space forever. That's what faith is realizing the extra possibilities that normal people don't see. It's not discrediting the actual possibilities that are already there. You can't say that God's gonna. I don't think it's fair to say that. Exactly, lands in the middle, it'll land on a thing. Another possibility. I don't think it's fair to discredit negative things, because God is still the God of those things. Like, all right, if God said, like, I don't know, I'm struggling with this metaphor because I've been thinking about this for a long time, and it's just it's a really weird thing to like and put into practical sense. But like, I think you guys know what I mean. There's just other possibilities that are literally, they're possible. You can't say that it's not going to happen, because it could. But the faith in knowing that everything is going to work out for the best is knowing that there are other ways for it to go properly, for it to not go badly, if that makes sense. That's at least my understanding. I don't want to like impose that, but I want to say that's like my working definition of faith at the moment. And so I couldn't let my optimism limit what I saw. That's what I was on. I know what it's like to not expect a thing at all. Like I said, when I was at that position, I was like, God, you have to show me something. Or I was like, I walk. Like, I don't know where I'm going, but like, I can't do this no more. All right, Jeremiah, you're home, so you can talk. Good. I'm glad to hear that. Glad you made it safely. I know what, and I really like wasn't expecting much at that point, because I was like, from my idea, what I've have got in my head, like all these things are contradicting that. So whatever, like if something happens, it happens. But if it doesn't, not surprised. And like honestly, that's where I was at. And so literally the next line said, I've been at a place I made demands or I would walk. Oh whoa, I just skipped a whole stanza. Sorry. Next line, I know what it's like when they don't pick up when you call. Church people will say this all the time, and I agree. Anytime you're in a situation where like God's not talking to you, it's probably a test. And so you got to use what you've learned, what you know about God yourself, what your relationship with God has shown you to get through that season, through that test. And I know what it's like to, when they don't pick up when you call. I know what it's like when that attempt was your resolve. I know how it feels to sit and wait for a response. It hurts a lot more when you're waiting on God. Interestingly, when I was writing that at first, I mean, of course, the song is about God, but like, I had in my head a vision of like, you're somewhere, and you need a ride for something, and you like call someone because it's like too far for you to walk, or you don't feel like walking or whatever, and they don't answer. And that's kind of what it felt like. Like, that sucks. Like, you're just stranded. Like, how do I get home? How do I get back? And I feel like in that situation, where that mental space I was at, spiritual space I was at, that's what it felt like. And I know everybody knows that feeling, like someone's supposed to come pick you up and they just aren't answering their phone, sucks, like the worst. And you're just stranded with a bunch of people looking at you like, hey man, like, you need a ride, and you don't want to ride with none of these people. That feeling hurts, and it's the worst. Now imagine that, but God's the person that's not picking up their phone, and that is infinitely, like, worse. The big oof indeed, Sydney. And so that's where I was at. Then the next line is like, I've been at a place I made demands or I would walk. I was like, God, you gotta show me something or else I'm out. Like, deuces. I couldn't understand how I was leaning, I would fall. This is my grandfather's favorite scripture. Lean not to your own understanding, in all thy ways acknowledge him. I didn't know, like, I was leaning, but I wasn't leaning on anything. I had nothing, like, at that point. I was like, I don't know. And so I would fall. I knew that it would hurt, and, like, I knew, like, yeah, this is going to be bad, this is going to suck, this is going to be pain, but I had nowhere else to go. The next line, I had nowhere else to go, because I grew up in a church, and they say, I thought you one of us. Literally, I grew up in a church, that was what I was founded on, that's all I knew. So I knew if this didn't work out, I don't know what I'm going to do next. Like, I was in almost an literally an existential, like, crisis. And then, like, I say, we thought you one of us, and that captures some of my biggest, like, issues with the church from my experience. That's what I need to preface. I should have prefaced a lot of what I'm saying. It's from my experience with the church, what I've seen from the church, growing up in the church, what I know about the church. This is not a worldwide, what do you mean trapped, question mark? I felt like, yeah, trapped, because literally didn't have anywhere else to go. This is all I know. Like, I'm not just gonna, like, convert and just next day, like, I start, like, selling drugs or something. That's not in me. Like, but, like, with what was in me was wrong, how do I move forward? That's where I was at. I didn't know. Literally, like the lost souls in Disney Soul, like, just wandering, did not know where to go. And I didn't feel pressured to make it work, because that comes with cognitive dissonance, where I'm like, well, I have to make this work, because I didn't feel pressured to make it work. I didn't expect it to work. And so it was like a really gratifying surprise when it did work. So I see, this is hitting y'all on different levels, I know. And so, as I was saying with that last line, embodies some of what I really have problems with in the church, because it was like a very snarky line, like, well, I thought you one of us, I thought you're supposed to be saved, you're supposed to be this and that, you're not supposed to doubt God, XYZ. Well, I did. What now? And so that's why, again, it transitions nicely into the hook. It's like, no, I am not the standard, I fell out of scam, and goes through that movement again. And that is the end of the lyrics. And then I think, oh yeah, the last quote at the end of this is me, and again with that conversation with Josh, where I said, not white Jesus, but like black, not black Jesus, but like white Jesus and blackface. So I was reading this story in my world literature class, and wow, we've been on for an hour already. I'm almost done. I won't be before you long. No, in my world lit class, and it was basically about this guy fell in love with this girl, and they were in Africa. What's that country? It starts with a N-O. Why can I not think of it? Does it start with an N? What's the story called? But anyway, they're in Africa. It's a country was colonized by the British, and so the girl's family was like rich, and the dude was like poor. Nigeria. They were in Nigeria. Yes. And he was like, yo, I want to marry your daughter. He goes to her dad, and he's like, that's cool and all, but you're broke, and so you're not marrying my daughter. Or like, he didn't say, he was like, he was real passive aggressive. He was like, you need like funds to like sustain a marriage. And he was like, dang. So he got in his bag about that. But anyway, they ran away, got married. It was cool, but he still kept like, her dad had got in his head, and so everything he did was to like get that money and come back. And she came from a real religious plot twist. I'm the smart friend. Thank you, Sydney. You got the geography on me this time. What was I saying? So he goes and is trying to just get his money up. And she came from a very religious background. And just like, she called it like the Church of Sorrows, the religion of sorrows, where she was brought up in. And she was like, she hated going to church there because they would just sing like sad sounding songs, and everything would just be like, the best thing I could equate it to in my knowledge was no disrespect, but like from my experience, it sounded like she had come from a Catholic church. And so they left. They weren't going to nobody's church, I don't think, at that point. The war happened, and he joined the war with like the colonizer side, and they promised if they won that they would give him a job and money and whatever. So they won. They did not give him a job or money or whatever. He was pressed about that, but somehow he got like something. He got a little bit of money, started his own company, and then once he starts getting money, he's like, "Yo, God did this." But then he starts going to the same church she like used to go to, like the Church of the Sorrows, and he was like, he became like an elder and everything. And so he gets money, like he's getting bread. And when he would go away on like business trips, his wife would go to this other church where I forget what they called it, but basically it was like they was jumping and shouting, speaking in tongues and everything. And they had a good little Pentecostal church there. And so she would go to that church whenever he would go away. So eventually he gets his cake up. He goes back to her dad and is like, yo, I want to have a wedding the right way this time, right? And so he's like, I bet you got a little money now. I'm so proud to call you my son now. Fake, all of it fake. Like, you didn't like him before. Don't come try and like him now because he got money. And so she doesn't want to go through with it, but she's like, it's whatever. It's the husband. And she didn't even tell anybody. She had a whole bunch of friends at the Pentecostal church. And so day of the wedding comes. She's upset about it. He's like so hype about it. And so they ask him, they're like, do you take her to be your wife? He's like, most certainly. They ask her, and then when they ask her, all this noise comes from outside. The other dudes are like speaking in tongues, coming, blah, blah, blah. And she starts speaking in tongues and shouting with them and everything. She's like, no, I don't take this dude to be my wife or her husband. And so the point I guess I was getting at with that story, when I read that, I really understood how, because still like everybody in this story was black, but like they were all African, but they had white Jesus and black Jesus, and the girl's dad and her husband were serving white Jesus, but it was like masqueraded, made to fit them, because it didn't seem like it was oppressive, because he ended up with a job out of it. He ended up getting money because of it, and he was black, and so that didn't make sense. And so that, I was like, it's basically, I feel like the church, and that's what I was telling Josh in this conversation, in a sense, is not serving like black Jesus, not saying like, oh yeah, black Jesus, white Jesus, blah, blah, blah. I mean, Jesus definitely wasn't white. I mean, but it's white Jesus, Eurocentric Jesus, but in blackface, just doctored up to make it look good for us in these aspects, but really these aspects of who we are as descendants of Africans, still demonizes aspects of us, natural aspects of us, cultural aspects of us for the standards. Again, I'll go back to that over and over, just for the standards, the rules of what is Christianity, the Eurocentric, the white man's religion version of it. And so that's where I was talking about when I said that, not black Jesus, but not white Jesus, but not black Jesus, but white Jesus and blackface. Yeah, that's how I said it. And that transitions perfectly, and I mean perfectly, into the last song on the album, Rebirth, which I'm very excited to talk about. What's today? It's Thursday. I might get on tomorrow, honestly, and do Rebirth, because I wanted to finish up this week. I don't think I'm gonna have time on Saturday, so yeah, I think I kind of have to get on tomorrow. I can do tomorrow morning or tomorrow night. We'll see how the vibes are. I did not expect to be on here this long for this one either, but like I said, these three last songs on the project are the piece and the art. Yeah. So that line was, when you're sorting out the puzzle, you trade piece for the art. So when you're doing a puzzle, you literally, like at the beginning stages, you get all the like-minded pieces or like colors or whatever. Like, oh, this is the sunset, this is the grass, whatever, together. And so you're trading, having these pieces, like PIECES, to, instead of having the full picture. But I was saying in a lot of situations, you trade inner peace to see the bigger picture. Like, people will go crazy, like, studying things just to figure it out, just to understand. You know, like the pictures where people, like, are in a cave or whatever, and they grow a beard, a big scruffy beard, and they're drawing, like, the connections between all these pictures and whatnot. Like, they don't have inner peace because they can't figure it out, but they're trading that for the art or the bigger picture of the thing. And I think that's what I was saying. I was in that position, in that situation, spiritually. That makes sense, Sid? And 10:30, we can do 10:30 again. Yeah, because I get off work at 9 tomorrow again, so 10:30 will work. I'll have my day to vibe. I really appreciate y'all. I think this is the most live we've had. Does anybody else that's still here have any other questions or anything? Yes, that makes sense. Good, Sid. I'm glad that makes sense. Send a pic of it from your computer. A pic of what? Send a pic of what, Sid? Alright. Bruno said he misses you. That's what I'm saying, bro. I haven't seen you. I ain't seen Bruno. I'm still mad because y'all said that my car's name was weird, but y'all took Bruno. But I'm gonna hop off here. I'll probably talk to y'all just anyway. Don't good night like that. No, it's like, yeah, for real, everybody. Appreciate y'all for coming out. We had fun here. Love y'all always, and good night. Peace.